Hi, I'm Andrew, the young adult and media librarian at North Brunswick Public Library. One issue that comes up with comics, in particular in graphic novels about characters who have been around for years, is I was wonder if someone had never read a comic before, would they understand what's going on, or who these characters are, what kind of stakes are there, just what is going on. And some books are very helpful in terms of being able to explain a lot, and some get really, really obscure with and really can only appeal to people who really know the characters very well. I'm going to look at this rather tall book here, Fantastic Four Grand Design by Tom Scioli. Right. And just if you hold it just the right light, you can see the silhouette of the Invisible Woman alongside her family teammates, Mr. Fantastic, the Thing, and the Human Torch. Now, here's the back cover, which I like a lot, where you can see their faces a little bit better, and you can see quite a lot of the Invisible Woman there. Usually, when you see the Invisible Woman in comics, you don't necessarily see her without her skin, but with her inner organs and bones like that. And I think that's typical of this book, in that Tom Scioli, the author and illustrator, really shows these characters in ways you may not have seen them before. Right now, you may have read X-Men Grand Design, which was a miniseries that took decades really of X-Men storylines and combined into one narrative with a beginning, middle, and ending. Well, this book, Fantastic Four Grand Design, does that with a beginning, and middle, and an ending that we've never had, and is it's very much in a lot of ways a tribute to the stories that have gone before, especially the ones by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, the original team of creators on the book, right? And during the 1960s, they really had really a creative renaissance there at the company we now know as Marvel, right? Where there was just such unusual storylines going on here. Another thing about a lot of comics today is that people will talk about decompressed storylines, where one story will take many chapters to tell, whereas in in the 1960s, when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were creating Fantastic Four, the stories moved very quickly. Right, you wouldn't necessarily there'd be some storylines that would go on for a while, but the idea was it was generally that you would get a story in maybe two or three issues at the most. Right. Well, this book takes decades of storylines and moves at a very quick pace. You can see that there's you can the artist uses a 5 by 5 grid, so you can fit a lot on one page. And sometimes you'll be in the middle of one storyline and suddenly it'll be over very quickly, and you find that there's storylines going in a completely different direction. You'll say, wait a minute, who are these characters? And it's sort of dizzying in a fun way. And it really, I really enjoy the artwork here. Right, it's very colorful. It's very, and it's if you look at the page closely, all right, you can see that it's intentionally looks like the pages are yellow. Right, it's almost like you're looking at a 50-year-old book here. Right, it's even though it's a new book, it's a 2020 book. And there are those wild, detailed pictures that you would expect. So it was a very creative time, the 1960s, with the Fantastic Four, particularly the mid 60s, where we introduced characters like the Silver Surfer and the Inhumans and Galactus, and and even the Black Panther. And there's one wild moment in this book where the Black Panther and his allies seem to actually become sort of a tribute to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. All right, Because Scioli is not afraid to take the stories in different directions. If you've read every Fantastic Four book ever written, you'll still see, wait a minute, this is not how the story happened. What's going on here? And I don't remember Sue being such a thief, going around stealing things. And yes, Mr. Fantastic can be a jerk, but is he that much of a jerk? Well, the idea, I think sometimes the character, but I think that is sort of unique in that. So if you're a purist, you might object, but I don't, it's not necessarily, yeah, it doesn't, yeah, if that doesn't bother you, then you can really enjoy it. There's also a reprint of one of the most famous issues from the Lee Kirby era, This Man, This Monster. And that was from issue number 51. And that has some really, there's a lot of quiet character moments in the book. Right. What's interesting is how little the characters use their powers in it. But there's definitely some wild spreads here. Look at this, all this Jack Kirby goodness here. And the book also includes a further reading, sort of bibliography of sorts, right, where the characters debuted and things like that. So yeah, it's I would say if you like the Fantastic Four, it's definitely a fun read. If you're not familiar with the Fantastic Four, it may not be the ideal book to start with. We have other books there that in the library that might be better for as beginners. But you could still, if the artwork appeals to you, certainly, and if you're curious about the breakneck speed of the storylines, all right, you can put a hold on this library with our contactless pickup system. Are you going to our website, northbrunswicklibrary.org, or calling us? I'd be curious to hear your opinions on it if you've read it. Also, if you have any more requests for us to buy for the library, be happy to hear them too, or that you'd like me to look at in this series. All right, thanks a lot. I'd love to hear from you, and happy reading.